very special guest, Ottawa radio personality, Stuntman Stu. Let's go!
Zander, my boy.
How you doing? Oh,
Excellent.
whoa, that is really loud. Oh, okay, is that better?
Hi, buddy.
How are you doing?
Excellent. You?
I'm doing amazing.
My God, you're set up like a pro. I'm jealous.
Thank you. So I can't believe that, you could join my podcast. I'm very happy that you can. And it's just amazing that you could join my podcast. And I just want to start by thanking you, you in behalf of making my, inspiring kids of my generation. And you have been an inspiration, like with your battles and all that stuff, and that's just amazing, and that's what makes this interview so special for me. And so, are you ready for the questions?
Absolutely, my friend. I'm honored that you asked me.
Okay, here we go. So it is so nice to hear you back on the air, right? We are all big fans and of you, Angela and Janelle, and it feels normal again to have you back, to hear you back on the air. What does it mean for you to actually be back on the air? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, I got to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah, you
Actually,
feeling well?
Yeah, I'm feeling very well. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday,
And
and everything's working well. It's actually getting quite better.
awesome.
And I read a whole book I read a whole story to my doctor, and yeah. So yeah, I'm doing very well. So like I said, what does it mean to you to have?
What it means to me, Xander, is that it feels great to be reunited with Angie and Janelle on Move 100. The great thing is that I could broadcast live from my basement every morning. So I go from my bedroom to the kitchen to the basement, which takes 30 seconds. I don't have to go into the station because of this pandemic. Angie and I are broadcasting from our homes. Janelle's the only one that has to go into the studio, but it feels absolutely great. Uh, you never want to be off for an extended period of time. I know people that work day to day are dreaming of a year off, but you don't want to have a year off because you were sick.
Yeah, and so I always talk about how special my nurses are and doctors. Can Chio,
Yeah.
what can you tell us about those who made you feel better and who got you better?
Oh, I can't say enough good things about them, Xander. They were, shoulder to cry on. They would be the source of my inspiration because there would be days where I would be, especially I was in hospital twice last year. I was in hospital early in February, and then I went back in May and June. So in the May June part, during the pandemic, I wasn't allowed to see any of my family. So I relied heavily on the nurses to be like a wife, in some senses. So they were angels in disguise. I could ask them anything. I could, vent to them, and they would always have great advice.
Yeah, Chio is awesome, eh? Like what they could do for you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that you get this question millions of times. How did you get your nickname Stuntman Stu?
Well, a long time ago in 1996, I was just a young kid starting out in radio. And the station that I was working for, actually, that I was an intern for, asked me to go out and do a stunt on the morning show. So I did it and I did it well. And when I came back to the station, they said, that was really great this morning, but you have to get it kind of a nickname. We can't just refer to you as Stu the Algonquin kid. So they passed around a bunch of different names. They said Super Stu, Superman Stu, Studley Stu. And I'll never forget Doc, the host. He said, what about Stuntman Stu? And I looked at him and I said, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Really?
And here we are all these years later, and 11-year-old Zanders asking me how did I get my nickname? So it stuck.
So you were from Montreal. You're from Montreal, right?
Correct.
What was it like growing up, and what kind of growing up there, and what kind of kid were you? Were you like a quiet kid,
No,
outgoing, good student? What kind of
nope.
kid were you?
I was the class clown. I was always, doing dumb things for laughs. I was never very good at school. I switched schools a number of times because my grades weren't very good, and I was always in the principal's office. But I was, I was, I get paid now to do what I did in school, which is kind of funny. Um, I ran into my guidance counselor from high school many years ago, and she laughed. She's like, "How many times were you in the principal's office? And here you are, making jokes for a living, and you're getting paid for it." So, growing up in Montreal was a lot of fun. I was an only child living on my street. We had a tight knit street. We had 5 or 6 of us that would play sports every day. Go into the field and play, and we could leave the house at 9 o'clock in the morning and come back at 6 o'clock at night.
That's awesome. That must have been really fun.
Yeah,
So my dad says that there is a great radio personalities in Montreal. Uh, is that where you got the itch to do go into radio?
absolutely. I was around your age when I remember listening to the radio with my dad. He would drive me into school every day, starting in grade 5, because the school that I went to was far from my house. So we would listen to the morning show every single day. And I remember my dad saying one day, like, "Oh, I'd love to have that guy's paycheck. He gets paid a lot of money for telling jokes." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And I loved the show. And then I said, maybe I could do that. So I started, making little radio shows in my bedroom with my little cassette recorder. It didn't go anywhere. It's nothing like what you're doing now. I don't know what I would do if I had the access that you have now, but it was my early experience in practicing talking in a loud, clear voice, and just dreaming. So I wanted to be in radio and TV, and I'm living that dream.
That's awesome. And so, if someone wants to have a career in radio, how would you suggest they start off, and where would they go, and like how would they start their career in radio?
Well, I think what you're doing and what a lot of your generation is doing now is starting off in the right foot by getting interested in podcasting. There was another young man that interviewed me recently on his podcast, and he's around your age, and I was just blown away by the confidence that you have to be able to do this. I don't know if I ever would have had the confidence to do it, but as long as you have the confidence, then as you go through high school and then you start college. I went to Algonquin College, and they have an outstanding broadcasting program. I graduated from the radio broadcasting program in 1997, but it's still going today. And the guy that runs the program was my classmate.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
So do you have to have any sort of skills to be in radio, or and if so, what kind of skills do you need to be in radio?
Well, you have the skill right now by the listening skill, and is key in radio. You have to listen to what the other person's saying, and you have that. And you have to be outgoing, and you have that. And you don't have to have an amazing voice, but you have to be able to put a sentence together, and you're able to do that.
Okay, and that's awesome. How did you end up in Ottawa, and what sort of things were you into when you came to Ottawa, and what sort of things did you do in Ottawa?
I came to Ottawa because a few friends of mine in Montreal, we were looking at going to broadcasting school, and there was a school in the States that was way too expensive. My father said, not a chance. And there was Ryerson in Toronto, which was I think a 4-year course back then. But one of my buddies said, "How about Algonquin College?" I'm like, "What? What's Algonquin College?" So we drove to Ottawa in 1994, in the winter of 1994. Got a tour of the old radio station at Algonquin College, met a couple of the students, and then we went back to Montreal, wrote the entrance exam, sorry, and eventually got in that fall. And when I came to Ottawa, I was new to the city. I didn't know anybody. I wanted to experience the city as best I could. So I buddied up with a guy at Algonquin College who I met at the bar, because I started working at the college bar back then, Bert's Bar. And through that guy, I met a whole bunch of people. So I started to experience the city from this guy's eyes because this guy didn't have a car. I did. So I was basically his Uber driver. And I got to drive around the city a lot and got to know the city very quickly. And then I got a job almost immediately at Dunn's in the Byward Market, where Lone Star is now. And I started to meet people and getting to know a lot of people. And pretty much that was my first year and a half was getting to know the city. And I wasn't really into a lot of things, so I was just trying to find my foot in life. I was trying to figure out where I belonged, and eventually I found it.
So that's awesome. And you also mentioned that Algonquin College had a very good broadcasting
Yeah.
right. How long were you? And did you go? You went to the broadcasting. So how long did it take you to like give you enough confidence to actually start doing radio? And
Well, I had a lot of confidence, a little too much confidence, because I was asked to leave after my first semester because I thought I'm Stu, I'm from Montreal, I have this great radio voice, I don't need good grades. So I was kicked out of the program, and then I went into another program and failed out of that. And then the teacher that kicked me out said, "You can come back, you can reapply in the fall of 1995." So I reapplied in the fall of 1995, basically gave me a second chance. And that was when I met my wife, who was in the program at the same time, and it was meant to be. So getting kicked out was the best thing for me.
um
I don't advise that, but it worked for me.
what effect does social media have on traditional media? And like I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes
Yeah.
in media in social media. So do you think like now we have YouTube and social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat? Do you think more people are going to there and leaving the radio? Like, what do you think the effect is on?
I think there's definitely a lot of people that are not listening to radio in the traditional sense because everything has gone towards smart speakers. And like we tell people, listen, tell your smart speaker to listen. Google Alexa, play Move 100. You can go to your phone and get the iHeartRadio app and listen to Move 100. Those are two great options. You know, even in your car, you can still listen to. People are still consuming radio, just not the same way. Um, we This industry has had to adapt because if you don't adapt, you're dead. Yes, there's. I can get in my car. I can listen to Spotify. I can listen to iTunes. I can listen to satellite radio. But people still love local radio. Local radio will never die.
Never, ever. Um, what do you enjoy the most about your job and what you do?
Being able to take what we do, and for somebody to come up to me in a grocery store like it did today and say, "Hey, you made me laugh during Word Wars at 8:10." I don't expect people to listen to the whole show, but the fact that somebody took time out of their day to thank me for some dumb thing I did on the radio, or thank me for mentioning their charity, or thank the show because Angie mentioned something on all the feels segment just before 9 o'clock that touched the community. That means the world to us.
That's awesome. So what has it been? What has been the highlight of your career, of your whole career? So even when you started the broadcasting program in Algonquin, what has been the highlight of your career from like when you started broadcasting to now?
That's a great question. I think the highlight of my career has been my career being able to bounce back once and twice. You know, from from cancer is definitely a highlight. You know, to be able to get up every morning and being able to broadcast and being able to do what I love to do for a living, that's definitely the highlight of my career. I don't think there's been one specific moment, or there's been a lot of moments, and I'm old and I don't remember a lot of things thanks to radiation and chemo, but um, just being able to do this every day is a highlight.
Yeah, it's amazing that you could just, like you said, just get up from your go to from your bedroom to the kitchen to downstairs,
Yeah,
do the show, and like you said, so many people love it and they thank you. So I think that that's pretty cool.
yeah, it is.
Also, so you have battled through some tough battles. What kind of advice can you offer kids that are going quite like the same way as you?
Well, every time I complained when I was in hospital, my wife would point out to me, look across your window. There's another hospital which is Chio, with kids, a quarter of your age dealing with what you're dealing with. So um, that put things into perspective for me. Watching kids, battle leukemia and battle cancer just is the worst thought in my head or any cancer for that matter. That to me is the worst case scenario. So it was basically those kids that motivated me to just deal with what I had and just fight and continue fighting. I remember getting a quote once, which I thought was really cool. It was, "You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails." So and that might not resonate, if you're 9 years old, but it resonated for me when I was 40. So I understood the situation, and we have to adapt to the situation, and we have to deal with the situation.
It sucks on like you said, kids much younger than you suffering the exact same thing as you. Like it sucks how cancer can't just be a specific time around life, and it could happen to, you know, babies, and it could happen to little kids, like little kids, and it just sucks how they are suffering through the same thing, as you, and it's horrible. So
It doesn't discriminate, that's for sure.
how much money did Stu Strong raise for cancer, and can people help and still collaborate?
Um, we're at $315,000 since
Wow.
2016, which is awesome. We have some generous supporters that we've had over the years. I actively pursued it when I got sick the first time. When I got sick the second time, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to ask people for money. We've got a lot of money, and we're going to leave it because I just felt like, you know, we were starting to go down this pandemic road, and I saw a lot of people losing their jobs, and I couldn't, in my heart of hearts, ask people to give money to a charity that already has a lot of money. Um, when there's so many other charities that are hurting, so I just decided to back off.
So how can people, like, can people go to a website and donate? Like, can they do it off their electronics, or what can they do?
Well, I mean, they certainly can. If somebody wants to donate to Stu Strong, I certainly won't say no, but they can go to the Ottawa Hospital Foundation website. I don't think the Stu Strong page is still there, but if you want to make a donation for Stu Strong, which benefits leukemia and stem cell research at the hospital, you certainly can.
Awesome. So I have some rapid fire questions for you right here. Are you okay with
All
that?
right, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Who was the person who inspired you the most?
Uh, I had a teacher at Algonquin College that was my coach, the late Ian Barry. This guy was my go to. Even after I left Algonquin College, I kept in touch with him until his death a couple of years ago. This guy was always in my corner, always being my cheerleader, and I always think of him every time I turn on the mic.
Um, if you were not in radio personality, what would you have liked to be?
I would love to be a I wanted to be an architect when I was a kid, or I wanted to design cars for a living, and I didn't have the math skills to do it. So, and thankfully in radio, you don't need math.
Um, what is your all-time favorite artist and favorite song?
Huey Lewis and the News, Power of Love.
The best part about living in Ottawa is,
Golden Palace egg rolls.
I'm not gonna lie, me and my dad love those.
Awesome.
Will Tom Brady win the Super Bowl this year?
I love Tom. I love the Patriots, but I don't like the Bucks. I'm sorry.
So no.
No, he probably will, but yeah, he probably will.
If you could do a radio show with someone other than Angela, past or present, who would it be?
I'd love to do a radio show with Tom Hanks.
So do you ever get nervous behind the microphone?
Uh, yeah, I was nervous when I went back to work on January 4th for the first time in a year. I was nervous when I went back to the mic in 2017 for the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Final. But other than that, I'm pretty comfortable behind a mic.
If you wrote a memoir, what would you call it?
How to live without paying for anything.
If there was a movie made about you, who would be the lead actor?
The Rock.
So list 3 words that sum up some Stuntman Stu.
Goofy. Moody and compassionate.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining my podcast. I can't believe that you could join, and hopefully we get to see each other after this pandemic again. And so yeah, I just want to thank you so much. And
Zander, you and I shall have a trip to Boston to attend, so hopefully
yes, Boston.
it might be another year, but I'll wait.
Might. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be long. It's probably gonna be long, but at least we're going.
We're due. Take care, my friend. Say hi to
You
everyone.
too. See ya.
Cheers.